What's happening, guys? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast. On today's show, hot take season is going to continue. But if you're watching live on YouTube, you know we're actually recording this on a Sunday because I've got a very special guest. And by guest, I mean my regular co host, my BFF, my compadre. He is the man of the hour and the man with the power. Jerry Sinclair, live from Iowa. Welcome back, buddy.
Randall Young, let me tell you how good it is to hear your voice again, man. Jesus. Listen, it's if you're watching on YouTube, you're not going to see the bookshelf, you're not going to see the banner, you're not. You know why? Because I'm sitting on the floor right now. I got the wife's laptop. I'm sitting on the floor. I needed this. I needed to talk to you. I missed you. I missed the people. I needed some regularity in my life. And a couple weeks ago, I missed the show because we had to drive out here because we had to find a place to live. Right? Like I've never been to Ames, Iowa. I don't know what is what and where is where. So we found a place. Last week, I'm trying to have dinner with everybody because we're leaving for a couple of years and trying to pack everything, and it's a disaster. So I'm like, Randy, I think this is the first time I've ever missed 2 weeks in a row. Maybe once before, but I don't think so. Whatever. I couldn't do it. This week, I get my schedule from the new gig that if you're watching on YouTube, I start tomorrow. If you're listening in podcast form, I do it on Monday. I look, they got me closing. Well, they got me working until 8 o'clock Central Time on Tuesday. And we normally record 9 o'clock Eastern, which is then, and I have a 40-minute drive home, so I wasn't going to be able to make it. And, today's Father's Day. I text Randy relatively early, and I'm like, listen, is there any way you can record? Because I need to do this. Like, I need something. And my man hit me with a cool, we're going to do running back hot takes. Let's go. And I am so effing excited to be back. This is what I was not going to let 3 weeks happen. 3 weeks would have been a first, and that's too much of a habit. Couldn't do that. Randy, let's talk football, man.
Well, you buried the lead. First of all, Jerry is relocating. He is, and I said this on the show a couple weeks ago. He's being a great husband, very supportive of his wife and her grad school program. And
I
as a
just want to
husband,
live off her money.
hey,
Don't give me too
listen,
much credit.
listen. As a guy who did that with his wife, I fully endorse supporting your significant other getting that master's degree because it's an investment. But Jerry is also burying the lead in that he lived up to his moniker, the man of the hour and the man with the power, as he had to unload that U-Haul in Ames, Iowa, all by yourself,
Bro,
man.
we,
Lugging all. What was the rule? If it was too heavy for you and her to lift, it got left.
yep, it got left behind before we would leave everything. Entertainment centers, dressers, whatever it was. We would try and carry it, and if she couldn't carry it with me, we left it in Michigan. So we made it. It was something. I had to do a lot of it. My hamstrings are a little tight. My ass is going to be nice and firm by the time
It
this
is
settles
swimsuit
in.
season.
These
Look at that.
biceps are still little, but I promise you they are just as sore as Randy's are after every day because I'm not used to this physical activity. I'd
Now
say it's
you
been oh
you look great. And before we just jump into the rest of the show, I want to thank Theo Grimminger of I guess we're the Dynasty Warzone. He's Roto Underworld. He does written content for Mr. Podfather himself, Matt Kelly, over at Roto Underworld. And then he does some great podcasting and YouTube work of his own with JD and Dan over at the Goat District. Super interesting guy. If you're not following Theo after last week's show, you should be ashamed of yourself. So, Jerry, what else is going on? Because I was excited. It was it was an additional gift. It was Father's Day. My wife and son. My son gave me a nice card with a nice little handwritten note in there. Hit me right in the feels. They took me to go see Top Gun 2. I guess it's
which
not
is right
Top
up
Gun
your alley.
2. It's not
Right,
Top
but
Gun.
it is.
It's Top Gun Maverick is the name of it. Very well done. Normally sequels have a lot to live up to. But before we get to the show, I know you've not seen it yet. Obviously, you've been moving. I'm 2 weeks.
Yep.
I'm 2 weeks delayed because this is like our last weekend off of tournament baseball until like August. So we took advantage of having, the day off. But before we jump into the show, what is your favorite sequel of all time? Now, you've not seen Top Gun yet, so.
No. You're putting me on the spot. Just right off the top of my head, probably Back to the Future 2. I don't know what it is about the going into the future, which is now in the past, but that's besides the point. I loved that one. Back to the Future 3, the Old West one, not my cup of tea. The second one, though, oh yeah, I could mess with that one every time. But I'm also a person that usually hates sequels. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, my favorite sequel of all time has been The Godfather 2. And Top Gun, the true evolution of Michael Corleone in Godfather 2 is just a tremendous masterpiece. But it was somewhere between Caddyshack 2 and Godfather 2. How about that?
I don't know if I've ever seen Caddyshack 2.
Save the hour and 45 minutes of your life. Some funny scenes by Randy Quaid, the guy who played Cousin Eddie in the Vacation series of movies. But outside of that, David Donaldson.
That's a good one. Yeah.
He says Empire Strikes Back, but
that is a good one.
I guess if it's a sequel, but we did say part 2. So that was more of a Return of the Jedi guy. But I can see where Empire Strikes Back is good. But that was some movie takes. But, Jerry, you know what you've been missing while you're gone?
What have I been missing?
You are missing good people, bad tweets. You probably didn't know I had one for you.
I didn't.
But you do. All right, here we go. This is from Football is Life. Okay. That's
good start.
That's at football_tweets. At football_tweets says, hot take. If Antonio Brown never went crazy, he would go down as the best receiver of all time. And he listed a 6-year stretch with Mr. Antonio Brown's stats. And, he had some good years. He had 110 catches, 1,500 yards, 130 catches, 1,700, 136, 1,800. He had, of those 6 years, he had 4 10-plus touchdown seasons. But this, not only is this a bad take, this is a ludicrous take. Forget Jerry Rice. As a good friend of the show who actually inadvertently brought this tweet to my eyes, Mr. Ray Garvin. Ray said, Jerry Rice went 92, 12, 11, and 7 at 40 years old. AB would definitely be in the top 3 conversation, but the GOAT, Jerry Rice, got that shit on lock. What do you think when you see these type of comments?
I mean, how many years did Antonio Brown just dominate the NFL? 6, 5, 7, somewhere in there?
The 6 that he listed from 13 through 18 are pretty solid. Like I said,
yeah, of course.
The worst receiving yardage season was 1,300. Well, technically 1,287. The worst TD season in there was 8. So it was a hell of a run. It was a hell of a run from 13 through 18, and then the wheels came off the wagon.
He would have needed to double that to be in the conversation, in my opinion. Because Jerry, like Ray said, and we're not going to besmirch the good name of a fellow Jerry while I'm speaking on this podcast, but he's not even in the realm of what Jerry Rice could do. So it's hot takey. Just like
for me,
just say if Antonio Brown had not gone absolutely bonkers, he would have been in the conversation as one of the top wide receivers, not as the GOAT, right? Yeah, exactly. He's on Mount Rushmore. Okay, I can dig that.
He would be, for me, if he had continued that pace, he could have been in conversation for like Mount Rushmore Part 2. Like the second team, like the NBA does the first team, second team, third team, all pro.
Yeah, like him and Calvin Johnson.
My second. Yeah, there's always going to be Randy Moss, Jerry Rice. When I see people like this, it's like this is almost feels like a content creator website or Twitter handle. But to me, when I see this, because I saw this once before, and it says, you know, Christian McCaffrey is arguably the greatest fantasy player of, you know, all time. And I'm like, tell me you've only been watching football for a decade. That's what
Correct.
that says. Because if you do not know, I played in leagues where we literally discussed, in redraft leagues, literally discussed not letting LaDainian Tomlinson be drafted. Okay, so just tell me that you have only been watching football and digging into stats for the last 10 years, because that's what it tells me. Because forget Randy Moss, forget Jerry Rice, and this hits a little bit closer to home for me. AB's best 6-season stretch does not even compare to Marvin Harrison's best 8-season stretch. Marvin Harrison literally had 8 straight seasons of 1,000+ yards and 10+ touchdowns. I mean, that is.
Did he really? I mean, I know he was awesome, but holy shit!
From 99 to 2006, he had at least 1,113 yards and at least 10 touchdowns, including. Well, here's the touchdown total.
When did Reggie Wayne show up? Do you know? Just off the top of your head, it had to be in the middle of that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Reggie Wayne was probably 4 or 5 years old.
Still shitting on him like that? God, what a dog.
In the 8 seasons, here was his touchdown totals, okay? 12, 14, 15, 11, 10, 15, 12, 12.
That's silly. That's just
silly. And people are going to be like, well, he played with a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Don't give a
fuck. What the hell do you think Ben Roethlisberger is, dumb?
Right, exactly.
There goes that argument. I mean, was he the level of Peyton Manning? No, but he's a Hall of Famer. And did Antonio Brown play with anybody the level of Reggie Wayne? I mean, I might listen a little bit, but he caught Hines Ward at the back end of his career.
Yeah.
And in fairness, you know, if you want to go the Peyton Manning argument, my counter would be is the NFL was a lot more pass happy when he was doing this. So, you know, I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate you finding a pocket of stats. He was probably just doing, or she, because football is life, could be. It's gender agnostic. So they could have just been, you know, farming stats and then like, wow, this is a hell of a 6-year run. But know your history, because Davante Adams has had a hell of a 6-year run.
It's
a lot of people have it. So it's easy.
What makes those people stand out, though, is that they didn't have a 6-year run. They had a 15-year run or a 12-year run. So
and again, nothing to take anything away from Antonio Brown, but just, of course, we want to take the thing that we've spent most of our lifetime looking at and ignore the past. And that's clearly what we're doing by ignoring Marvin Harrison, ignoring Randy Moss, ignoring Jerry Rice. You know, I would even say Torrey Holt. Torrey Holt had a really good, there's a lot of guys going back a lot of years. So Mr. or Mrs. Football is Life at football_tweets. I get where you're coming from, but you got some engagement. So if you were engagement farming,
that's true.
Congratulations, a mission accomplished. But that ain't it, Chief. So that is good people. Bad tweets, Jerry, brought to you by our patron. Now, while you were out moving, we brought in some new patrons.
Yeah. Hey, let me interrupt you first and foremost.
Interrupt me.
I have, been absent, which I apologize to the Patreons. But let me just say, Colin Jones, not to quote Miley Cyrus, came in like a fucking wrecking ball. My man has been one of the most active people that have ever joined that chat. And I haven't been interacting a ton lately just because I've been busy, but I always am just, lurking and reading everything and seeing what everybody's saying. Bro's been on fire. Good on you. Anyway, sorry, Randy. Take it away.
I love it. I love it when the new patrons, because it comes down to personality type.
Yep.
Some people jump in, like Colin here, he jumped in like a cannonball. He just jumped in, grabbed both knees. The water was warm. He splashed all the water out of the pool.
Yep.
Some people a little bit more tepid. They come in dipping a toe, but I think that's the greatest part of the patron. I uploaded a new patron podcast Friday night. I'm going to do one. I was going to do one tonight, but thanks to the man of the hour being back in the house, I'm going to do one on Tuesday night. So we'll shift that a couple of days. But I think we have a low-key endorsement about the patron. Oh, I didn't have the soundboard up, Jerry. What the hell? I blame you, Jerry. You're supposed to be you're the technical advisor. You're the worst.
Am I though?
One more time. Tap into the patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. Check it out. Great group chat, great people. And you know what? Some of our great patrons are in the chat here on YouTube. You should jump over to YouTube, read the comments from tonight's live stream. A couple other wide receivers brought up that you need to go over, comment on. Tell us who was your wide receiver. After you get done checking out the patron, you can go over to YouTube. You can subscribe, and then you can find this video. And go to this video, give us a thumbs up, and tell us a wide receiver that Mr. Football is Life is lacking on. As well as leaving us a five-star reviews over at Apple and Spotify. Those are all the ways that you can support the Dynasty Warzone grow and continue to do new and different things. We're going to do some different formatting this coming fall. He's been missing as well. I think work's kicking everybody's ass this year, Jerry.
Yeah, it sucks. Screw work.
Well, wouldn't you have thought like 2 years ago during the pandemic, like everybody would have been getting their ass kicked as they were going back to work? Right. I don't know if it's like we're just like downrange from all that work or just it was just crazy. But like my work's comp business was way up. You know, you're starting a new job. Kyle's getting, you know, I've talked to Kyle, and I'll share a little bit of our conversation about Kyle. He kind of got like that Office Space. You ever seen Office Space?
Uh-huh.
You know, how would you feel about having as many as 3 people under you? I think Kyle got a promotion, and he's doing a lot of good stuff. But this fall, there's going to be a lot of new, interesting stuff over at the Warzone. The show rotation, big things coming, larger roles and more stuff for our buddies Dallas, Jesse, Mike, Chad, all these guys doing big stuff. So make sure, again, I'm going to give this a second go around. You know, tell them about it, Crip Mac. Tap in with the Dynasty Warzone everywhere, but where, Jerry?
TikTok, because fuck TikTok.
Because fuck TikTok. That's correct. So,
hey, let me another sidebar. I'm gonna distract you a bunch of times on the show just because it's been a couple weeks.
Well, this is what happens when we don't have a show sheet.
Yeah, right. I was driving the U-Haul, right, and I don't know, and bumfuck Illinois or Iowa or wherever I'm at, damn near middle of the night, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna listen to one of the episodes that I didn't, you know. That I wasn't on. I gotta hear these QB takes, which you were not very nice to Theo about the Tua take, which I get it, I understand it, but and you played that guy, and I was fucking dying laughing in the car, just me and the dog in the U-Haul, dying laughing. It was a good episode, but every time I hear him,
if you don't know who we're playing, he's like an Instagram, YouTube sensation. His name is Crip Mac, you know, like Bloods and the Crips. Mm-hmm. Crip Mac, find him. He is so good. And you know, if you don't believe me, on Hood. So let's get into the body of the show. Again, thanks to Theo, you brought him up again. But did you have a couple of QB hot takes? Anything that you wanted to add, subtract before we talk a little running back action?
We actually had a lot of crossover with that one. I was down on Mac Jones. I like Tua. I was even a little spicier than he was.
I do not like Polynesian. If you want to say Hawaiian, whatever. I do not like Polynesian Jared Goff, left-handed. But keep going.
No. So I mean, nothing more to build on for the most part. It was good. It was a good show.
I mean, I understand everybody's excited.
I liked you guys diving into Davis Mills. I think Lamar Jackson was one of the ones where I thought he could finish as QB1 while everyone is sort of, you know, crapping on him. And you guys talked about it, which you guys really hit all of mine for the most part.
We're a Dynasty show. I mean, the only way to get value is to zig when everybody else is zagging.
Yep.
And you're right. And Theo was right. A lot of people are off Lamar right now. And the time to be off Lamar was, I'm just going to put myself over, a little pat on the back here, was last year when I was fading Lamar. I didn't like the feel of things, but I think Lamar's going to come back. I love Lamar even more if he doesn't get the contract. If he doesn't sign the big extension and he plays on the 5th-year option, I love talented players, you know, banking on themselves.
Right.
You know, more often than not, it works, and it works well. It's not like Daniel Jones has a leg to stand on, and I like Danny Dimes, but it's not like he has a leg to stand on to go start trying to renegotiate an extension. He should just be happy that he's got a job. But when you have a really talented guy like Lamar, I love it when they bet on themselves. And I'm excited. I think you're going to see the best Lamar you've ever seen. I wish they would have gotten him more weapons. I would have loved to have seen like a Jarvis Landry would have been a great get there. I'll tell you, this will surprise some people, especially as a Colts fan. I would love T.Y. Hilton to wind up in Baltimore. You wouldn't have to pay him a bunch of bucks to show up. But why do I like T.Y. Hilton? Because that's a very young wide receiving room. Do you need T.Y. to take 130 targets in the season? No, you do not. You need him to be that solid veteran pro who can show up, help the young guys. I mean, I would have no problem if the Colts brought him back for that very role, but I'm just thinking of for Lamar, for that hot take. Yeah. I think it would be great for Bateman. I think it would be great for Duvernay, a couple of guys that I liked. And I did do the companion patron podcast on Friday talking about QBs and things of that nature. But Jerry, it's been a while. Give us a Jerry hot take. Give us a Jerry hot take on a running back.
It's going to be one that's not super and it's going to be about Cam Akers. So, I'm not a person that just hates on Cam Akers just to hate on Cam Akers. Every single season, I have been given a reason to continue that hatred, and that's why I do. Sort of like how you've switched gears on Baker Mayfield, right? The situation has changed, and you are no longer a hater, and you're an acquirer of Baker Mayfield. In the case of Cam Akers,
I'm still a hater. I still don't like.
I know what you're saying.
His attitude. Get your head out of your ass and just play ball. Because I do believe there's talent there. I've said this 100 times. I do believe there's talented. There's not 32 other people on this planet that can play the quarterback position better than Baker.
Correct.
But I think he would move further up that ladder of 32 if he removed said head from said anus. I'm sorry, you were talking about Cam Akers.
It's all right. So, when he came in, they traded a third to move up in the third to get Darrell Henderson. I thought he was going to switch and, they were going to share. And Cam Akers had 600-700 yards, whatever. So I was right. You patted yourself on the back. I'll pat myself on the back. Now, where I had the opportunity to be wrong about Cam Akers was last year, because there was a real chance that he could have taken that job and left Darrell Henderson to the dust. But he got hurt. So I can't take credit for that because I had nothing to do with that. But because of the injury, the Achilles is a very serious injury. Extremely skeptical about him going forward. And then he did something that I think was not only detrimental, but it was also amazing. Don't get me wrong. The ability to get back in the same season that you ruptured an Achilles, unbelievable job. It will absolutely help future NFL players who have had that injury because they will follow that blueprint. That said, I don't think you were ready to come back because you looked like absolute dog shit. There was nothing about what that man did that suggested he is going to be an elite asset. So as far as my hot take is concerned, I don't think Cam Akers finishes in the top 15 of running backs next season.
Well, I appreciate the spiciness that you come out of the gate on. I really do. But based on everything I've seen, they're going to give Cam Akers every opportunity to fail.
Listen, and that's what they did in the playoffs, and he obliged all of those failures.
The difference is that what did he have? Did he have something like 18 weeks between the time that he ruptured the Achilles to the time that he came back? Well, now he's going to have, almost double that between the time the season ends and the time the season starts.
But is he going to be 100%?
I think that you'll see a lot of that in camp, but by the time camp rolls around, it'll be too late. Because again, this is the problem that gets a lot of people in trouble in Dynasty. It's the last thing that you saw has to be the future. I went back and I'll use Joe Burrow as an example. Okay. Go back and look at all of his game log. I think with Joe Burrow, we tend to forget that Joe Burrow was okay. He was a borderline QB1 most of the season. Then all of a sudden, he rips hell out of everybody in weeks in the fantasy playoffs, week 16 and 17. And we just assume that's what we're going to get every week going forward. Could it be? Yes. Could it be Joe Burrow got better as the season went on? But this is what happens when these major injuries, whether it's an ACL, an Achilles, whatever. If you can get some beat reporter, my burner account on Twitter that's all that I follow. I follow all 32 NFL teams. I do the same thing with Instagram, and I'm always looking for thumbnails. I want video. I don't mind reading articles. I don't mind reading what the beat reporters have to say, but I like getting those little 30-second videos on Instagram, the stories on Instagram, flipping through. And I like seeing how players looked. Can I throw you a low-key one? And I'm going to ruin it for our patrons, but I sent it to our patrons yesterday. There is, per the Carolina Panthers and their beat writers and their Instagram, there is a big groundswell for Terrace Marshall right now, by the way. He is getting a lot of run in minicamp. He is getting a lot of love from veterans like Christian McCaffrey and the new offensive coordinator. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. He was the guy that, speaking of classic movies, have you ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off? He looked like the principal. He was the head coach of the Giants when Eli Manning had his best season. And just a little writer downer, as we used to call those here. Go out and kick tires on Terrace Marshall for a third. Robbie Anderson has hinted at retirement. Robbie Anderson has said that he did not want Baker Mayfield to come to Carolina, and that looks to be a very real possibility. I don't know about you, but if I'm Baker Mayfield and you've been, bad-mouthing me and you're talking about retiring, I'm giving those targets to Terrace Marshall. So just a low-key buy, Jerry, on the DL, because patrons already got that from me. They got that like 2 days ago in the group chat. But anyway, back to Cam Akers. This one right here I could see going either way. It's an if-then. But I did say a while back on either this show or the Patron that Kyron Williams, rookie out of Notre Dame, who we all liked. I think everybody liked him. Like, they liked his film. They liked his game. He was he was a guy. Now, he broke his foot. He should be ready for training camp. But he's a guy who's a cunt hair away from real value in Dynasty. And that cunt hair is Darrell Henderson's hamstring tendons.
Right.
That is said cunt hair. So just be aware that Kyron Williams is lurking. I want Cam Akers to be a success.
Listen, I do too, because I like being wrong. For one, I
can see this going either way.
My thing is just like, what have we really seen from the man? Has he really ever been productive? Like I got his stats from his first year. He had one game that I'm looking at with over 100 yards rushing, and he got 29 carries in that game. The game before, 21 carries, 72 yards. I mean, he's been meh. Like, he's been meh. And that's not where he's getting drafted, and that's just not something I would rather do. He's too spicy, and it has to do with him being like the 103 in rookie drafts and people just never forgetting about it.
All right, well, I'm going to hit you with one of mine. By the way, we were both patting ourselves on the back, and I couldn't help but think of this soundbite. Jerry and I out here. I think I'm grandstanding and you're hot dogging. Or am I hot dogging and you're grandstanding?
You're always hot dogging.
I am hot dog. I think you're right. I think that sounds right. Anyway, my first take is Dalvin Cook. This is going to be, I'm going to give you something good and something bad. Are you ready?
Okay. All right.
This guy is going to come out in this new offense with Nathaniel Hackett, if I remember that correctly, the new head coach. There came over from the Sean McVay tree. Basically, he runs a derivative of that Mike Shanahan offense, blah, blah, blah. We've heard it a million times. But, man, this offense eats running backs. Have we seen what it's done to running backs in San Francisco? Have we seen what it did to running backs in Washington, L.A.? Dalvin Cook's a guy who's already been injured a lot in his career. Now, to his credit, the last season and a half, he's done pretty well. He's been pretty solid. But, I mean, he's going into year 6. this is going to have like a movie running back. This like show jumps all over the place. I'll give you another thing. Dynasty running backs, and I'm going to give you a movie title to define them. Are you ready?
Okay.
No Country for Old Men.
All right.
The running back position in Dynasty is No Country for Old Men. He'll be going into year 7 next year. So he's going to give you a really good first 8-9 weeks of the season, and his Dynasty value going into 2023 is going to absolutely plummet. It is going to plummet in Dynasty value.
Then he's going to get the little air gun thing that they use in No Country for Old Men. You ever seen that movie?
I have.
Okay, it's a good movie. He's like an assassin, and he uses like a cattle gun that like kills them. That's what Dalvin Cook's getting, is what you're saying.
Again, he's going to come out like a ball of fire, but I don't think he sustains it. I think that the injury monster creeps back into his life, and I just, again, it redraft. You're doing best balls. I know a lot of people are doing the puppy underdog. Use my buddy JD and Theo's code. The code's district. If you sign up on underdog, use the code district. I'm such a whore, I'll promote someone else's products, but use code district. I have no problem if you're doing best ball redraft and taking Dalvin Cook, because the upside in that offense is RB1 overall in the season. But we're a dynasty based show, and we're going to look back a year from now, and you're going to get maybe 33 cents on the dollar for what you'll get for Dalvin Cook now. If you're not a legitimate contender, if for some reason you got I'm going to get firsts, I'm going to get young guys, I am looking to cash out on Dalvin Cook. And that also goes for some of the older running backs that still have name value from that 2017 draft class, whether that's Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara. I still like Joe Mixon well enough. The miles are low there. But I think Dalvin too. Yeah, he came into the league at 20. He wasn't even 21 when he came in the league. So I could see Joe Mixon giving you another good 2.5, 3 seasons. But I'm getting out from Dalvin Cook, the injury issues, long-term viability. So for me, that's my first hot take. Thoughts, Jerry?
So I decided to look at all of the running backs, and I was trying to figure out the ones that I thought would do what I don't think they normally do. And I actually thought Dalvin Cook might finish as RB1 this year. But but he gets injured every fucking year, right? So you never. So
you're combining my take.
Yes. So like I'm absolutely, I don't have Dalvin Cook. If I do, it might be one share just to have him, because I'm not a second contract, especially the ass end of the second contract type of guy. But I feel like he is going to have a really good team. I feel like Minnesota is going to put it all together. I think that offense is going to be great. But I'm with you. Go ahead.
What you meant to say was, and I'm going to take your take and my take, and I'm going to combine them into one final hot take. Are you ready?
Yeah.
He's going to be on pace for the running back 1 overall, and the bottom's going to fall out. And I hope it doesn't. I hope I'm wrong. I never root for injuries. The historical track record is there. This offense has a bit of a track record to it itself. He plays on turf. I just see the bottom falling out, and I don't want to be left holding the bag.
Correct. And that's the biggest thing, because he's going to be 27 next year, which means even if he does finish as RB1, you're going to have a 28-year-old running back who they could potentially save, like, I think it's $10 or $12 million in cap space by not holding on to him. I would guess they give it 2 years because they gave extension to Kirk Cousins. So I'm guessing that's going to be their window that they're going to try and play. But at the rate he gets injured, at the age he'll be, his value is going to fall off extremely fast at some point in the near future. So I'm with you. He is absolutely a person that if I have him, I am absolutely praying and hoping that he is a fucking monster, because I'm going to get rid of him, even if I'm a contender, because I will take a few points just to not have the value completely tank. It's like people that have DeAndre Hopkins, right? You traded for DeAndre Hopkins at the beginning of last year, And now what are you holding on to? Right?
Well,
Like it's bad.
well, next year his so currently in the you're talking about his contract. He'll have 2 years left on his contract after this year. This year his dead cap number is 17.6 million. Yeah. Next year it drops down to 6.2 with a potential cap savings of about $8 million. I think we're seeing the beginning of the end of Dalvin Cook in Minnesota, and that's why I'm looking to get out. So it's good, but in Dynasty it's bad. Jerry, give me another hot take. Give me another running back hot take for these good people listening to the show.
This one's going to be a group, actually. So we have been absolutely sort of blessed with some young talent when it comes to running backs. We've either had, sort of superstars or people falling on their face. I don't think any of the rookies will finish as RB1. I know that's not super spicy, but when you consider the situation that both Breece Hall and that Kenneth Walker are in with not tons of competition, there's a real chance that if they got the workload, they would get there. I just don't think either of them are. I think this is it'll be a good class in the long run. I just think there's going to be some growing pains, especially because a lot of these guys played a lot during the COVID season in college and they didn't play tons of games. So I'm a little worried about the early production. But in the event that does happen, Randy, scooping, baby. Just scooping them all when the time comes.
Well, this is how you can tell that even though Jerry and I have been away from each other, the mind meld, the way that we interact with each other on this show has always continued to grow, because I'm so glad your second take involved rookies. Can I tell you why? Not only do I agree with you, I love Breece Hall, by the way. And the reason why I'm so bullish on Breece Hall is because, and to a lesser degree, Kenneth Walker, but we need fresh blood at the running back position. This is like the fourth year in a row. I'm honest, and it's a double-edged sword. You've got to have a top 10 of running backs, and you just can't put the Miles Sanders, Antonio Gibsons, Cam Akers in that mix because they've not earned it. And Dalvin Cooks, Alvin Kamara's, Christian McCaffrey's have got to earn that respect. And I think that's where that infighting comes from the guys like us who tend to elevate the Najee Harrises, the DeAndre Swifts, the Javonte Williams. More on that man later. Okay. But that's where we tend to elevate these. But my second take also involves a rookie. Are you ready?
Yep, shoot.
He won't be the RB1 overall, but he will be the highest scoring rookie running back, and that's James Cook. Now, as down as I am on Dalvin,
that's fucking spicy, Randy.
I'm higher than giraffe nuts
on,
on James, like Rick James high, like in a good Christian sort of way high on James Cook. I mean, the more I see him in camp, the more I see the way that this offense wants to use him. And it's not going to surprise me when, and this is a fantasy footballer stat, and I don't remember it, but it was some ungodly, obscene ratio of RB1s are tied to winning teams. So if you go back and look at RB1s over the last 5 years across the board, more often than not, those players are on a winning record roster. Is Breece Hall on a team projected to do well this year?
No, sir. He is not.
No, sir. The over-under win total per Vegas for the New York Jets is 6. That would be a 6-11 season. How about Kenneth Walker? Do you know what? Do you know what the Vegas over is for the Seattle Seahawks?
I don't, but I'm guessing they are nearly one of the worst teams in the league.
5.5, Jer. 5.5. Check a local number near you. Do you know what the win total, the over under is for the Buffalo Football Bills?
We'll say about 12 wins.
I think it's 12.5 if I remember correctly. You see where I'm going? You know they used good draft capital on the guy. They wanted to pick up J.D. McKissick for this offense before he's oddly spurned them and returned to the Commanders, and and Ron Rivera and Carson Wentz. Just weird, but whatevs. Do your thing. Do your thing,
Yeah.
JD. And
he didn't want to drive in a U-Haul. That's what he didn't want to do. I know his pain.
So I look at a team that spent high draft capital, second round pick. Clearly, the new offensive coordinator, because Brian Daboll is now the head coach of the Giants, he clearly has a role intended for a pass catching back. The same people that besmirch the good name of James Cook are the same ones that also besmirch the good name of Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. So the barrier to entry to being the feature back, especially in the passing game for this team, is pretty low bar to clear. Correct. So for me, good offense, good quarterback. I see a perceived planned role for this guy. What's not like to not like? So for me, I know it's bold, I know it's spicy, but give me James Cook as the number one scoring RB in the class. He will not leapfrog in a dynasty startup. He will not leapfrog Breece Hall next year, but he will leapfrog Kenneth Walker in dynasty value for a startup standpoint this time next year. All the spice, all the heat, piggybacking off of your take. What do you think about my James Cook love?
If it wasn't a hot take show, I would say you have definitely enjoyed some of the drugs that are known to be legal in Michigan, but not your home state.
I thought you were going to say I'd been hanging out with Rick James.
Well, maybe that too.
I mean, it's supposed to be bold, right? Spicy, bold.
It is. And this is what I will say about it. Would I be shocked? No, because I don't see tons from any of the big three coming this year. So if he can get 50 catches, which is really what he's going to profile as, I mean, that's going to put him close enough as it is. So I like when you hear it, you're like, oh, okay, Randy's fucking insane. Like, I get it. But if you think about it, I really, like I said, I don't think any of them are going to be RB1s. And if he can get 50 catches, that's going to put him at RB 18-ish, no matter what he does. So I think you're a little crazy, but it's the point of the show. And I don't think it's absolutely unfathomable.
Well, as you know, I traded with you, and we made a pretty good sized trade in one of our leagues together so I could get the 101 to get Breece Hall, because I believe in the talent long term. You know what the problem with Breece Hall is?
The goddamn Jets.
It's the goddamn Jets. So that's why I have James Cook ahead of him. All right, give me your third and final hot take going into the Dynasty 2022 season.
So last year when we did this show, I said that I thought Joe Mixon was going to be the RB1 overall. I thought he was finally going to put it together, and I think he finished as RB2, which is pretty damn good. I don't think he's going to be an RB1 this year. I think the touchdowns are going to come way down, and I think that passing attack, you talked about Joe Burrow, right? Like, for a large chunk of the season, he was okay. But they started to put it together. It seems like when young, explosive offenses really get it going, like, I don't think Cincinnati's going to have the success that they do in the playoffs like they did last year. But I think offensively, they are going to start out on absolute fire. And I don't think it's going to be because of Joe Mixon. Now, there will be instances when T. Higgins or Jamar Chase gets a pass interference call in the end zone and they just give it to the giant guy and he falls forward. But, I think he had 15 touchdowns last year, if memory serves. If that number is like 7, I can't imagine he gets up there. And, it seems like he misses 2 games every single season. I don't think he missed 2 games. I think he played 16 games last year. And he's going to be 26. He's getting older. They don't need to rely on him. He's, I would say, almost certainly the third option on that offense. I don't foresee it. I think everything went right last year. And I got lucky. I just happened to pick it that year, but I think he is going to slip a little bit, and I think you're going to see his value dip pretty tremendously as a result. Because once that downward trend in the age starts to hit, the narrative is not everybody loves him. So I'll probably, when that happens, I'll probably be buying him again next year, and I'm just going to keep roller coastering with Joe Mixon. So you have long been not the biggest fan of Mr. Mixon. How do you feel about that, Randall?
Well, as I hear you say it, because again, we're recording this show live, not our normal prep time to get the show. So I'm taking this in, and I'm sitting here thinking about the Bengals offense. First of all, let's start with the overall Bengals, the overall offense of the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that they caught lightning in a bottle last year. We were just talking about over/under win totals for teams like the Jets, like the Seattle Seahawks, and I think Cincinnati was like 6.5 last year. And they caught Baltimore at the right time. Baltimore, if you just go off the 22 starters, no team in the NFL, just to their starting 22, was more injured than Baltimore. You had Ben Roethlisberger hanging on by a shoestring. And, Baker was hurt. We're not taking any of that into account. I think the Bengals are due for more regression than any team in the NFL. Again, we talked about Joe Burrow. We talked about the last thing that you saw and act like it's never going to, not happen again. And that's where we tend to get in trouble. And then I'm going to go to your Mixon take, is that someone in that offense is bound to disappoint. Someone is going to have to disappoint. I've seen Dynasty services with T. Higgins in the top 12.
That's pretty spicy for me.
That is spicy for me. Now, back in the day, we were talking about Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne earlier. The difference is they played in a dome in a pass-first offense. They played in I don't remember the division. They were in the East for a while, but the division wasn't this tough. There's a couple of killers in that division. And I know that Deshaun Watson's got his own problems, but that's a tough division. So I just feel like someone in Cincinnati is bound to disappoint, and Joe Mixon is an obvious candidate. So
let me address something real quick because we got chat in here talking about the age because I acted like 26 was where they're going to die. It's not that they're bad because he's going to be 26. It's the fact that I foresee, because he had 16 touchdowns last year. I actually shorted him a little bit, and he had never hit double-digit touchdowns ever in his career before then. I think he had like 5 the year before. So if he, regresses to that mean, the 7, 8, 9, 6, whatever he ends up with, it's going to be a tremendous dip from what he did the year before. On top of the fact that he's going to be getting older, and the perception and the trade value is you can't recover from age in Dynasty. Now, it creates advantages for players to accumulate him then, but if you already have him on your team, you will be losing value in that instance. On the leagues that you don't have him, you'll be able to acquire him for a value because he's under contract for several years. So Joe Mixon is a fine hold, don't get me wrong. I'm just talking about next year. I don't foresee him repeating the success that he had.
I do want to take a second because this is the benefit of watching live and commenting on the YouTube comments. Ty makes the comments, 26, what happened to the cliff being closer to 30?
If this was wide receivers, I agree. But...
I want to clarify what you're saying because, again, we had Theo on last week. He works with Roto Underworld. They've done the work. They've done the research. And that a running back peaks, what I think the term Jerry meant was not cliff but peak. We will see his peak season and everything 27, yes, 28, correct, 29. As he gets closer to 30, we've seen Joe Mixon's best, and it's downhill. Now, is that gradually downhill, like a nice Sunday hike with the misses, or is it like a bobsled to hell?
Yeah, no, it's not David Johnson. It's not David Johnson.
You hope it's not. If someone would have told you about the descent of Todd Gurley, who wasn't even 26, but there were some injury issues and stuff involved. Yeah. So Joe Mixon, the one thing I will say about Joe Mixon is even though he's 26, is that, my dad used to sell used cars. That probably surprises absolutely no one. But, when you work at a used car place or like you're around that environment, what's like a tagline that you think that you'd see on a used car? Low mileage. Low mileage. Drove by a little old lady. She drove it to the grocery store and church. Joe Mixon's a low mileage. He had the suspension
Sure.
in college that kept his miles low. He's had some injury issues and things which aren't great, but they were never major injuries like career, like Todd Gurley had. So as a 26-year-old running back, you can maybe squeeze an extra peak year out of him. But Jerry, I can't blame you for the take.
Listen. I fucking love Joe Mixon, and I think he's an absolute staple of a dynasty asset for you
you
to
do
have.
love you have him as your top five.
He's number 3. He's number 3. But I'm just
Three.
saying, three. Damn it! But
Damn it.
I'm just which is spicier than every other human being on the planet. I'm just saying, as far as what his production, I don't foresee him repeating that production. And I'm just, that's all. Don't worry.
And by the way, he was RB4. If you go all season, all 17 games, he was RB4. But in fairness to him, he did not play Week 18.
Yeah.
Cincinnati sat their starters, so he would have been in that 300-point club. By the way, little side note, I was looking because I was just fact checking you. Like I'm like, Twitter has fact checkers. Mm-hmm. I was doing some fact checking. I didn't want you to get it wrong for the listener. Austin Eckler on the full season last year was the full 17 game scope. He was the RB2. He had 30 less points than Jonathan Taylor and missed a game, whereas Jonathan Taylor played them all. So if he'd have gotten his average, Jonathan Taylor would have only outscored him by about 10 points on the season. That's to take nothing away from Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
That just tells you what a monster season Austin Eckler had. Well, let's
and hold on.
You know what I'm going to get, Jerry?
Go.
I'm going to get a Billy Mays. Remember the late Billy Mays?
But wait, there's more.
I'm going to get the "But wait, there's more" sound drop for you.
But wait, there's more. To go full circle on your previous take about James Cook, receptions like that can boost up somebody's stats to a tremendous amount, which is what happened with Austin Eckler, and that's what can happen with James Cook. So maybe you are not as high as I at once assumed. Randall, final running back take.
And I just want to add this in. Mr. Mixon coming off a career high in receptions. He had 10 more than his previous high, which was 43. He had 53 last year. So more involved in the passing game himself. So mine's super spicy. You kind of forced me into using my Billy Mays take earlier than I wanted to. One of our listeners in the chat said, that James Cook take was super spicy, like Thai food spicy. But wait, there's more. Javonte Williams finishes in the top 3 at the running back position and threatens Jonathan Taylor for 101 in startups this time next year. I know a lot of people are worried about Melvin Gordon. Jerry, ask me about Melvin Gordon.
What about Melvin Gordon, Randy?
Melvin Gordon, Josh Gordon, Commissioner Gordon. I don't give a shit about Melvin Gordon. This is Javonte Williams' time to shine. He was more involved in the passing game last year. He had 15 more targets and, wait for it, 15 more receptions. He is the better pass catching back. And I know Melvin can catch some passes, clearly more involved in the passing game. Again, a lot of this is speculative. New head coach, new offensive coordinator there in Buffalo. But Jerry, free agency started on St. Patrick's Day, 3/17. When did the Broncos sign Melvin Gordon? When did they say, holy shit, Melvin Gordon's a free agent, shit, we better go sign Melvin Gordon? When did that conversation happen? When was the shit, we got to re-sign Melvin? When was that conversation?
It was not early.
It was 40 days later. It was, oh shit, it's April 27th. We better go sign Melvin Gordon. There's not really a lot of running backs because apparently the NFL wasn't super high on this rookie running back class either. And they were like, you know what? We'll just go with the bro we know. We'll bring back Melvin. He's 29 years old. Melvin Gordon at this point in his career is a speed bump. He is the speed bump on the parking lot that is the racetrack that is the Javonte Williams season. He is going to melt faces again. Good offense, good quarterback upgrade, good weapons around him, good offensive line. I know it feels bold. And I know that Marlon Mack was never the pro that is Melvin Gordon. But last year there was those little concerns. Oh, the Colts re-signed Marlon Mack for a 1-year deal. And Nyheim Hines was still there, who they paid. And we look for all these little nits to pick about Jonathan Taylor. And what happened? They were left with their proverbial dick in their hand, and they had no Jonathan Taylor. You still have a chance. You still have, as long as Twitter naysayers continue to try to run this man down with their weird and whack 29-year-old Melvin Gordon takes. Get the hell out of here. Javonte Williams, RB3 season overall. I want to go super spicy and say he's going to supplant Jonathan Taylor, but I just can't, because Jonathan Taylor is going to have a monster. I mean, an absolute monster season in the receiving game. You know, like we just talked about, Joe Mixon had a monster receiving year. You know, Carson Wentz was still a little bit mobile. He liked to run around and then occasionally throw the ball left-handed, which is fine if your name's Tua, because, well, Tua's left-handed. But it wasn't great for Carson Wentz because, well, he's right-handed. But you know what Matt Ryan doesn't do? He doesn't run. He's as mobile as this bar stool I'm sitting on currently. So Jonathan Taylor is going to get a ton of work. That's why I can't, because I know what a season Jonathan Taylor is going to have. I can't say he's going to fully supplant Jonathan Taylor for the 101 overall, but he's going to be damn close. Javonte Williams, monster season. Lock it in. Jerry, thoughts?
I am fine with you saying he could be RB3. Where you get me is challenging of Jonathan Taylor, because I know, but even to consider, because he would have to outperform Jonathan Taylor by a pretty good amount to be in that. So I think you're absolutely nuts to assume that. But
Jerry, I understand
hold on. Let me just say, as far as hype is concerned, if he finishes as RB3, they will be in the equal hype category, where everyone does not shut the fuck up about either one of them ever. So listen, I have been a person. I'm going to keep interrupting you because you haven't heard me in 3 weeks. This is how this is playing out. But you know, I have not been the biggest supporter of Javonte Williams as a rookie. But what I am also not going to do is be a fool and assume Melvin Gordon is going to stand in his way. Melvin Gordon will be a pain in your ass probably 3 times next season. He's going to have a long run, or he'll vulture 2 touchdowns or something, and it's just going to piss you off. Yeah, like there's going to be times when you're going to have Javonte Williams and you're going to lose a matchup because Melvin Gordon's a dickhead. You know, fantasy speaking. I'm with you in that I think he will be sort of like what DeAndre Swift was, like going into this past year, like where he's going to be the hype guy and he's going to get drafted super early and all that. This is where I can get behind somebody like Javonte Williams, who I wasn't a huge fan of, as opposed to Cam Akers, because Javonte Williams has shown me things. Javonte Williams has shown that he can play in this league and he can be great. And that was as a rookie. So I assume that he is going to grow. And I think when they signed Melvin Gordon was a great point, because it was not a necessity. It was one of those last things where they were like, you know, just flipping through, looking at the depth chart, and they're like, okay, we need somebody. And they're like, well, we have Melvin Gordon's cell phone number still. You want to just text him real quick? And they're like, oh, okay. You know, boop, boop, boop. You know what he is? He's like the, you know, we like to talk about the ugly, not significant other, but person of pleasure at the end of the night at the bar. You know, you've missed on, you know, some of the ones you were trying for, and you're stuck with the last one, and you're like, you know what? Let's do that. That's what Melvin Gordon is. So
Melvin Gordon is the quintessential guy. If you're a Javonte Williams truther like me, he's exactly who you want.
Correct.
He's a crusty, dusty, 29-year-old veteran, okay, that held this kid. They had an exact number of 203 rush attempts each last year. He could barely hold this kid off of a 50% snap share last year. I know what I'm saying when I talk about Jonathan Taylor because he's the king, right?
Yeah, of course.
I understand. I'm coming at the king. I best not miss, but he is perfect. You know, if you, I would be much more concerned if they would have drafted Rachaad White.
Of course.
I would have been much more concerned if they said, we don't need Melvin, we're going to draft Zamir White. If they would have brought in someone younger, more dynamic from this rookie class. Crusty, dusty, 29-year-old Melvin Gordon is the term I've heard used before on other podcasts is meat shield. Melvin Gordon is the perfect meat shield to insulate the value of my man Javonte Williams. Just enough name cachet to get the haters of Javonte Williams, people who just want to be contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. You know, I'm Melvin Gordon. Dude, 2 years ago, you hated Melvin Gordon. Now, all of a sudden, he's the barrier to entry for Javonte Williams. Get the hell out of here, Jerry. Speaking of getting the hell out of here, that's what we're getting ready to do.
Yes, sir.
But what other things do you want to impart on this audience after your 2-week hiatus?
You know what? I did a lot of good ranting early on in this one. We swore a lot in this one, but I needed it. I needed to get some regularity. And it was a good conversation. This was good. And just the other thing, let's just keep talking about Javonte Williams for a little bit, because wait, there's more. You know, I think the signing of Melvin Gordon makes it even better, like you said, because they are so much less likely now, if Javonte Williams shows something, which it seems like they are because they signed an old-ass man, to draft someone earlier next year either. So, like, you're very likely to end up with a 4th or a 5th round running back drafted next year. And do you think he's going to supplant Javonte Williams? No, you do not. So he's going to be secure in his value as his role grows. It's exactly what you want. And this coming from someone that was worried about him.
As a Jonathan Taylor GM fan, should I be worried about Phillip Lindsay?
No,
I mean, the Colts brought him in.
That's perfect.
I mean, there's always going to be someone there to help lift that burden. You know, if you love, again, we talked about how the running back cliff comes up quickly on these guys.
Yeah.
If you have JT, if you have Javonte Williams, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, any of these guys, you want someone to come in and take some of that burden. That carry on the 33-yard line, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I don't want that to be Javonte Williams.
Exactly.
Give that 3 yards in a cloud of dust to Melvin Gordon. Cool, bro. Cool.
Yeah, but sometimes he'll take it 33 yards for a touchdown.
No,
and that'll piss you off.
He used to.
Well, yeah.
The 3 yards in a cloud of dust that'll piss you off.
You know what I'm saying, though.
Right. The 3 yards that'll piss you off will be the 3 yards when it's on the three when it's 3rd and goal and they're rushing the ball from the 3-yard line, Jerry. Those would be the carries that piss me off. But I just don't think he's dynamic anymore. I think he's a squirrely veteran. He's firmly got his place in the Broncos team. I'm fine with it. But, Jerry, those are my hot takes. Next week, wide receivers. But because we're recording this live on YouTube on a Sunday, you have an extra 2 days to prepare. And if you'd been subscribed over at YouTube, you could have heard this podcast 2 days early, Jerry. 3 days, technically.
Yeah, and you could
2
have
days.
seen me. You got to work on your calendar skills. And you could have seen me sitting on my floor with a laptop. Really missing out on these opportunities.
Will you have the studio back together by this time next week?
I should. So my here, we'll just keep.
That's talking, a maybe. That's a firm maybe.
Well, it depends. It's because I don't know yet. Because my mother-in-law came with us. She's helping us move. She's been wonderful. Been absolutely great helping us out. But she's staying in what is going to be the office, or what I've been
studio.
The
lab, as the kids say.
The Chamber of Champions is what the kids are saying about it.
I love it.
So depending if she is still here or not, will it be set up?
Well, listen, Jerry has moved not across the country, but uh,
Close.
eight
Couple
mile
states.
8 mile where Jerry used to live to Ames, Iowa is not as close as you may think. And
No,
so you know what? This man's been on the road, behind the wheel, part-time truck driver, driving a U-Haul, driving it like a sumbitch.
not good at it either.
No, absolutely not. But you know what you could do to help Jerry out? You could go to YouTube. You could like this video, and you could leave in the comments, God bless the working man. God bless Jerry. God bless the working man. God bless the good husband out there. You could go back to our previous comment, good people, bad tweets. You could leave who was a wide receiver that had a run as good as or better than the 6-year run of Antonio Brown. You could like the video, get thumbs up. You could subscribe to the channel. These are all things that help the show. You could go to Apple, you go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. Tell them how handsome Jerry looked. I guess if you're on iTunes, how handsome Jerry sounded on the podcast. How glad you were that he's back. 5-star reviews help. Spotify, I've used Spotify more. Um, not a bad format, Spotify. So you can leave us a review over there. Premium content over at patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone, and Hate Brand Goods. They continue to support the show. You can go over to their app. You can just go to the App Store, put in HVIII. You'll find the app, Google Play, iTunes. You pull that dude up, and you can check it out. If you see anything you like, you could use the promo code Memphis. These are all things, 5-star reviews, but especially 5-star reviews in the YouTube. Those would put a big smile on Jerry's face.
That's true.
That
Very
is,
true.
that is true, Jerry. What do you want these people to know before we let them get out of here?
Listen, there's actually another miracle that has occurred, and I just realized it. I didn't realize my dog was actually sleeping on the bed next to me. I am surprised she did not freak out at any point while I started yelling or anything. Usually she's one to bother me to go take a poop, but she's just chilling, aren't you, Lace? Yeah, she's done. She don't care about me anymore.
What? Well, I don't know that she doesn't care. It's just that she's tired, Jerry. It's the end of the day.
And listen,
And
she did not like the U-Haul either. She did not do
oh,
well in it.
dude, here's the funny thing. Like, people like to RV. I mean, we can segue this show for as long as you want. People like to RV. My wife and son and I, a few years ago, we did an RV trip to Yellowstone, from Indianapolis to Yellowstone. It was like a 3-day drive, then 3 days back. And driving an RV is just like driving a U-Haul, but it has a toilet in the back. That's the only difference between maybe a nice kitchenette.
Right.
But driving a U-Haul is not easy. If you're watching on YouTube, in the upper right-hand corner of the feed, you'll see the DWZ Top Gun logo. Top Gun inspired, TM Circle C. I don't want the fine folks at Paramount asking any questions, but we inherited this show with a military theme from our days back in the day at the Dynasty Football Factory. And that was one of the things that Jerry and I wanted to change. You see that DWZ, and you see that beautiful winged logo. I think you know where it came from. I give Top Gun 2 thumbs up. If you're listening on Sunday or watching on YouTube, everyone who commented, thank you so much for your support. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers out there, all the uncles, cousins, brother-in-laws, everybody who steps up and plays that role. Just have a day, have a cold one, have a beer, and the real gift for me was getting to spend an hour plus with my good friend Jerry Sinclair.
My man.
That was a gift. It was the text said, "Hey, can you record tonight?" I'm like, "You're goddamn right, we can record tonight. I get to hang out with." So wait a second. My options are: I can record on Tuesday, find a guest, explain to them the concept of the show, what we're trying to do, or I get to see my podcast boo for an hour and a half plus. I'm like, sign me up Sunday night. Also, happy Juneteenth. Great new federal holiday. We'd be remiss if we didn't bring that up. I hope you're honoring and celebrating that great holiday as well. But anyway, on behalf of that man, he is the man of the hour, the man with the power, Jerry Sinclair. Follow him on Twitter at JerrySinDWZ. You can follow me at DWZ Memphis. You can follow the show at Dynasty Warzone everywhere, but where, Jerry?
TikTok. Why, Randy?
Because fuck TikTok. That's why.
That's
Anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. Remember, hit the Dynasty WarZone. We're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll talk to you soon, guys. Have a great week.